Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Katz and Cosby with John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby.
I don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.
Well, that's the big question, John, here on Katz and Cosby. Are we on the eve of destruction?
I hope not. You know what really got me annoyed today? And we have Senator Joe Manchin to talk about that.
The best.
10 Democratic states said they're not going to participate in the 4th of July ceremonies in Washington.
This is ridiculous.
It just, look, it's the 4th of July for the whole country. Well, let's bring in Senator Joe Manchin. Well, Senator Manchin, it bothers me when we're on that they're not participating in the 4th of July, 250 years. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, well, first of all, John, it's good to be with you all. I'm always excited when we're together and we're speaking about common sense because that's how people live their lives. It's not how Washington works. It's not how Washington works, but it's how we all have to live our lives all over America. But this is ridiculous, John. You can't pick and choose what you like and what you don't like. And when you don't like something, you don't participate. We're a very diverse country. We got a lot of different groups, socially, religiously, and so many different factors that's what makes our country so great.
It's not about President Trump celebrating 250 years. It's about the country celebrating 250 years. Yeah. It's a special time, and I just don't understand.
I'm definitely going to be there. I'm definitely going to be there because I'm not really sure I'm going to be around for the next 250. So I'm going to take advantage of this one to be in Washington and celebrate.
Senator, you know what I'm afraid of? That if Harris would have gotten elected, I would have been worried about our kids and grandkids for our country reaching 300 years.
Yeah. John, that's the thing. We have to have enough faith in the system. Let me just tell you. Give your New York elections you just had, the primaries, where the Democratic Socialists of America, the people who basically say it's a new Democratic Party, John, they only the high water mark was the gentleman Lyndon who won with 18%. The other two was 17 and 15. No one's showing up to vote anymore, and you know why? Both parties have chosen quite a while ago that they would control the primaries. If you control the primaries, John, you can control who gets elected, and then you spoon feed that to the general election. The people are sick and tired of not being able to be able to choose the representatives they want. And we're saying, open up the primaries. Democrat primaries must be open and Republican because the MAGA and the DSA now have gone to the extreme. So they used the playbook that the Democrats and Republicans, the duopoly party, they wanted to basically control and make sure that they could control the primary. And if you look over the last 20 or 30 years, John, primary participation has dwindled to almost nothing everywhere. And then on top of that, John, they don't have to get elected with a majority, just a plurality. So if there's 2 or 3 people, a person get elected with 40%. You should never have an election to where someone cannot say when they win with 50% plus one, that I represent the majority of the people in my district or in my city or in my county or my state. We have to change the process. If not, John, we're lost because this control will continue.
I was a Bill Clinton Democrat in those days, and I helped run some of President Clinton's campaigns. And,
sure.
And Judge Weinberg, that's in the studio, has been a Democrat for 78 years, and 77 maybe.
Every day I get older.
You get older, and last week Carville says, Alan Dershowitz says he withdrew from the Democratic Party. Carville last week says that.
Well, I did it quite a while ago, but John, I couldn't relate to it, and I have a lot of Republican friends who are not relating to the MAGA going so far right. So
is there anybody in the Democratic Party that's trying to put together a coalition to make the Democratic Party the old Democratic Party.
Well, I didn't see it, John. I'll be honest with you. Leadership has allowed this to happen because they wanted control. Well, guess what? It backfired on them. The only people that are actively getting involved are the activists, the extremes, because they can get out a small minority of voting, and win. They've shown that in New York, and now they want to say, well, that's the new Democratic Party.
And President Trump has his own problems with a few Republican senators that don't agree with him.
Right, that's fine. You can disagree and do it in a respectful way and try to get to a common place. That's the main thing. If I would say to President Trump, I'm sorry, sir, I can't go home and explain that, but let me tell you what I think would work. That's how you have discussions. You just can't say, oh, hell no, I'm not for that. Don't ever come talk. People are just basically shutting everything down. This whole thing was based on our founding fathers knew that we have to have compromise. If you're going to say this is an experiment 250 years ago, and we're going to decide, okay, let's see, it's never been done anywhere in the world, but we believe that we can have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people that basically can govern ourselves. That means in our districts, whenever you have a district, that districts were designed, I think, by Thomas Jefferson, who said districts should be aligned with the people that basically have commonalities. So it could be agriculture, it could be manufacturing, and someone would be living in that area that would be elected to represent them. John, this redistricting, this gerrymandering and redistricting, it's not about the people. It's about the parties. They're drawing lines all over to get more Democrats or more Republicans and have total control. And that's what has to stop. If you had an open primary, John, where all of us were on the ballot in a primary, Republicans, Democrats, independents, and then you have libertarians or whatever you want, and you pick the top four. Those top four would go to the general election. And then it'd be ranked choice. You rank 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what happens, you have to win by at least 50 plus 1. That's pure representative form of democracy.
Well, see, the other problem is you take a state like Massachusetts, and I was really, my stomach was turning. You have 2 Democratic senators and all Democratic congresspeople, and the state of Massachusetts is 39% Republicans. How are the 39% Republicans being represented in Washington?
How are the independents, John? Let me tell you this. No different, and you're absolutely correct. Because you know why? The Democrats have probably got a closed system up in Massachusetts.
Yes.
You have to be a registered Democrat to participate. And people probably are saying, moderate people, might have been moderate Republicans, says, maybe we should just register Democrat because we can't participate. It's not competitive on the Republican side. That's the way West Virginia used to be, and now it's all Republican. Only thing I'm saying, that's so wrong, John. We've got to change it. Open the primaries up. Do not close them. Do not have a closed Democrat or Republican primary. I think basically I'm an independent right now, no party affiliation. I'm disenfranchised, John. The 1965 voting rights gave the African Americans the right to vote in America. They were citizens, and they had the right to vote. I'm a citizen. I'm a registered independent, but the parties are dictating how I can participate in this democracy. I think that's a clear violation of the law.
Well, Senator Joe Manchin retired from the great state of West Virginia, but Senator, please stay involved in politics because we need some common sense in Washington.
Well, John, I am. My daughter and I started what we call AmericansTogether.org. Just get on there, John, and wherever you live, it'll tell you what kind of government you have. And if you're unsatisfied, it'll give you some directions of how you could change it. People need to reinvigorate. Take back the government. Don't allow the political parties to dictate and control.
And tell us that website again.
It's AmericansTogether.org.
AmericansTogether.org. I will go to it after the show tonight.
And here's what I tell them, John. We're not trying to make a third party. If we do, I would say we're going to be the new AI. You heard about AI, artificial intelligence?
Yes.
We're going to be the American independence. We're going to push this country back to the middle, back to where we used to make things happen. Because I'll tell you, the center left and center right, the extremes, are not going to do anything.
Extremism in any direction is no good.
Doesn't work, John.
Senator, I'm
People
looking
want
to.
the grand old party to be grand again.
Thank you.
They want it to be grand again, and they want the Democrats to be responsible again. We got to make that happen, John.
Senator, let's catch up again real soon, and we love talking to you, and thank you so much for coming on.
Please, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Rita?
All right, great. And joining us now is Senator Rick Scott from the great state of Florida. And Senator, it's so great to have you here. This is Rita Cosby, along with John and also Judge Richard Weinberg. And Senator, you are very much in favor of the SAVE Act, the voter ID. Talk about just how important it is. President Trump obviously has made this his priority.
Can I follow up with something Joe Manchin brought up?
Absolutely,
yeah, please,
absolutely.
please.
We have an open forum here.
John, here's what I think's happened. Both in the Senate and the House, the money flows to whoever's the leadership. And so what is it, logically, what does somebody that's leader want? They want people that are going to support them. And so what happens if you're out there and you don't exactly support, whoever the leader is, guess what? In your next race, where most of the money goes to these leadership PACs, these big super PACs, you're not going to have any money. So guess what that tells you to do? You're gonna do what the leader tells you to do. So I think I think there's a lot of people like Joe Manchin said, we're not talking to each other in D.C. Like I invited Trump to come speak at lunch. I run the conservatives lunch on Wednesday, which most all the Republican senators come to. And some people are mad at me. I mean, I'm a business guy. I just said, look, we got to talk to each other. I mean, I'll talk to anybody in the Senate. I'm a business guy. I talk to everybody. Did I every time I talk to somebody, get a deal? No. But it opened my eyes what they needed. If I could solve their needs, I solved them. And so that's what we have to have real conversations and start solving this. Think about the Save America Act. This is not a Republican issue. This is an America issue. Democrats want it. Republicans want it. Independents want it. We all want it. But guess what? I mean, Schumer has told all the Democrats, you cannot be for this. He's told them, and so they all have to say, yes, sir, Mr. Schumer, we're not going to be for it, even though their voters back home, they want voter ID. I mean, how simple is that? They only want Americans to vote. I mean, they want their voter rolls cleaned up. They don't want to have Democrat races, where, like what's gone on in L.A., where it's a joke. What is it, June 29th? They had a mayor's race, just a mayor's race, June 2nd. They still haven't finished counting ballots. You feel, as an outsider, here's what you feel about California. They're going to count until the Democrat wins. Right? And so when people feel that way, guess what happens? They say, why would I vote? My vote doesn't matter. It's how Joe Manchin feels. His vote doesn't matter right now. That's not how this should be working. All of our votes should matter. And so I'm going to bust my butt to get the Save America Act done because it's the right thing for Republicans, Democrats, and independents. We've got to get this passed.
But
Senator,
what's interesting?
Can we get it? Can we get it done?
Right. That's the question.
Absolutely. So people, what they say is, well, we don't have the votes today. You never have the votes all the time. You got to work for it. I built a company from me to 285,000 employees. Did I do it in one day? No, I went and talked to people. So here's the way the filibuster works. The filibuster was never intended to stop a bill. It was to say, we've had a thorough conversation. Now we're going to vote. So when we all feel comfortable, we're done talking, right? We're going to go vote. That's all it was set up to do. Now what Schumer does, he says, no, we're going to use it. We don't have to talk. We're just going to say we're just not going to be for something, so you can never have the vote. It only takes the rules of the senators only takes 51 votes to pass something, but to get past the filibuster, it takes 60. Well, go talk. Go talk until you're blue in the face. But when you're done, we are going to vote. So right now we have the votes to pass the Save America Act. If we just got to say we're gonna go do the talking filibuster until the Democrats are done. And here's what I think is going to happen: if we talk about it, right, the American public will say, "Wait a minute, what do you guys are against voter ID?" And I've said publicly, okay, so if we don't want to pass the whole thing, just pass voter ID. Can we get that done? Just pass a bill that just says you have to be an American citizen to register to vote. Just pass it. You're going to clean up your voter rolls. Whatever we can pass, Let's start passing stuff. Let's vote on stuff. I'm willing to vote on things. If I don't like it, I'll vote against it, and it's my job to tell my constituents why I'm against it. Well, let's go vote, and let the Democrats explain to their voters that they think it's okay for people not to have an ID to vote. You have to know ID to get on an airplane, buy a beer, all that stuff, but not to go vote. The public doesn't believe that.
Well, you make a lot of common sense, Senator.
It's common sense. I mean, I just went to the Republican Party event in Florida on Saturday, right? And I gave a speech. And, you know, if I had talked about the Save America the whole time, people would have been happier because that's what they wanted to talk about. Everybody wants it to pass. And it's like people act like, well, Trump's unreasonable because he wants this bill to pass. Guess what? He ran on voter security. I mean, so we look around the country when the state just sends out ballots to anybody, to everybody, and there's ballots hanging around all the time. Do you think there's going to be fraud? Yeah, there's going to be fraud.
You know, the problem is, Senator, though, and you know this, the problem is Democrats aren't voting for anything. I mean, I think about the Lake and Riley Act. I mean, that they didn't want to vote for that. And they're not even voting. You may have even heard where John and I were talking earlier about they don't even want to have these exhibits at the Great American Fair. You know, there are a number of these Democratic-led states that are not exhibiting because they feel it's political, which is ridiculous. But it's like even the most basic things they won't, endorse.
So I've been very vocal. I think we ought to. A vote in the Senate takes a half hour. It should take less, but it takes a half hour. Okay, so let's vote on keeping government open every day. Every day, we know the Democrats want to shut down government October 1. That's bad for you. That's bad for federal workers. It's bad for our economy. Bad for that. So vote every day and show them the Democrats want to shut down government. Republicans want to keep it going. We want voter ID, right? Democrats don't. So do it every day and make them do it, and then be on TV and say, "Let me tell you how the vote went today," right? And just see what and keep telling the public this is the difference. And I think, Joe mentions, we are not a far left and a far right country. We're a common sense country. But the way what's happened is the way the Republicans and Democrats in the House and Senate have to do is they're so dependent on who the leadership money, that whatever the leadership tells them to do, they've got to do because, oh gosh, they got a race coming up and they're going to have to go along. Well, that's not right. So we got to start fighting. It's like we have problems. We got to start solving them. Social Security goes bankrupt in 6 years. We're running $2 trillion deficits. All right, so we got a war. We got to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. We have big issues. Let's go fight on the floor about them, and then vote and say how we're going to solve it. I'll argue with anybody about the things I believe in, and if I can't defend them, you know whose problem that is? That's mine. If I can't get the votes, you know whose that problem is? That's mine. But give me the shot. Let me go put my stuff up on the floor and see what I can do.
Bravo.
Let's go vote.
Bravo. You're right.
Senator, well, I mean, I worry, but you're right. We have to fight every day and see what we can do.
Yeah, let the public know what we're doing. A lot of times in D.C., people think, well, I can do whatever I want because people don't know what I'm doing. Well, make sure they know. I tell people what I'm doing. I put an email to millions of people every Friday, and I tell people, this is what I did for you this week, and if you don't like it, call me. I mean, I think it's about 3 million out of 24 million Floridians I have some contact with that my office does every year.
Last question before Senator, last question before we call it a day. I was sick this morning when I heard about the 10 Democratic states that don't want to participate in the 250-year anniversary in Washington. I mean, you can hate Trump, but don't you love the country?
They hate Trump so bad. But guess what? You know what? Those citizens in that state, there's patriots in that state. There's Democrat patriots and Republican patriots and independent patriots. You know what they're thinking? They're thinking they're disappointed in their government. When I think about this, John, when I ran in 2010, Florida was a Democrat state. There are 68,000 more Democrats. I won because I talked about common sense issues. I'm going to get you a job. I'm going to get your kids a better education. I'm going to make sure you're safe. That's all I talked about. And guess what? I won. I had my first 3 statewide races. There were more registered Democrats than Republicans. Now we're a big Republican state because guess what? People said, you know what? Republican ideas work. I can get a job. My kids get a better education. I feel safe in this community. So that's what we have to do. And if the Democrats have a better idea, go sell it. In business, I competed every day. Every day I competed, and I had to watch what did my competition do, and if I wanted to get that customer, I had to get better. Let's go fight and figure out who's the best, and then and the public will decide every election.
Absolutely.
Senator Rick Scott, keep fighting. We stand by your side, and whatever you need from WABC, you tell us, and we broadcast to millions of people every day.
All right. Bye, Rita. Bye, John. See you.
Thank you, Senator. And you guys, we're going to take a quick break. I love the fight in the Senator. It's great, isn't it? Fight for this country.
Both senators.
Yeah, both
Senator
senators.
Manchin and Senator
A+. It doesn't get any better than that to hear from both of them. And you guys, we're going to take a break. And then we have Bill O'Reilly. He's going to talk, about communism in New York and America. Boy, there's a lot of it lately.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Cats and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Cats and Cosby. Well, everybody is following this wave of Democratic socialists. President Trump just saying that he believes not just socialism, but he calls it communism, the biggest threat to America. And joining us now to talk about this and so much more, I wrote a great column about it, is the great Bill O'Reilly. Bill, your thoughts about where all this is headed?
Well, number one, Rita, there's no such thing as a democratic socialist. Okay, it doesn't exist. There's no party in our history. There's never been a movement of such. These are communists. Now, how do you know they're communists? They want to control the means of production. So I wrote a column that you referenced on BillO'Reilly.com yesterday. And the means of production mean how you live. So Mandani, of course, freezes rents for 2 years. Landlords didn't have anything to say about that. Now he's going after groceries, going after food. So he's going to regulate the grocery stores that operate within New York City, make it very difficult for them to make a profit. And then his vision is, I'm going to set up my own food cooperatives. They're going to undercut the food distributors, and the city will be in charge of food and housing. And then it's going to be one after another. When you see that, that's communism, okay? Because communists don't believe in individual freedom. They believe that you should do what the state tells you, what the government tells you. Now, in our country, we haven't had much communist infiltration, but after World War II, the Soviet Union rose in ferocity, and we had to fight the Cold War, and it was a fight. And we won the situation because we bankrupted the Soviet Union. They weren't able to feed their people, and it collapsed. So now we have to go through this again. I guess it's a political trend that we all have to deal about. But to me, personally, these people are infringing on my freedom. So they're making it difficult for me to pursue happiness, to fulfill my aspirations in life. I don't want Mandani telling me what I can and can't do. I don't want that. Okay? I don't believe what he believes. And he'll go after religion. He's already not shown up to the Israeli parade every other mayor prior has. You know, you'll see that. And it's just going to be one after another after another. And every New Yorker should be very, very upset. But most of them don't even understand what is happening, unfortunately.
So how do you turn it around? Because I agree with you, Bill. It's very troubling.
Yeah, and I never predicted this. I wrote a book called Culture Warrior. It was 20 years ago.
I remember that, Bill. I remember when that came out.
And I predict what the progressives, how they would power among the have-nots would be to promise people who were not affluent that they were going to support them. And it's exactly what's going on here. But it's now on steroids. So you've got this communist movement. It has momentum. Speaker, the second in the House, Jeffries, supports it. I didn't hear any Democrats criticize it. Did you guys hear any Democrats criticize this movement?
Fetterman, he's the only one.
Yeah, but he's not really a Democrat.
Right.
He's a libertarian. I mean, he doesn't go party line. Interestingly enough, this happened in Theodore Roosevelt's term, and the country fissured. And Roosevelt, when he ran on second time, remember he was president because McKinley was assassinated. When he ran the second time, he couldn't secure the nomination. And so three people ran. Taft, Woodrow Wilson, and Theodore. And Wilson won because the others two divided it. So we've seen it before. But we have never seen the media enable this movement. Usually you would have the media just furious. The Disneys, the Comcast would be, hey, you're going to cut into our profits. And believe me, they will. They being the communists will cut into their profits. And the media sits there and enables these people to do what they're doing. That's shocking.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. In fact, I was watching some of the interviews over the weekend. I mean, one example was it was ABC was talking to Mondani, and they asked the question, what do you think about no prisons? Because Chevalier, who's one of the ones who won the primary, said no prisons. And he gave this answer like, well, there are prisons. He didn't say no. It's sort of the same pattern of it's a very and the answer, the question should have been, wait, I'm sorry, you didn't answer the question.
Well, the progressive communist movement doesn't want prisons. They believe that if you commit a crime, even a violent one, society forced you to do it. As you have bad upbringing. So, today or this week is the anniversary of Kate Steinle, who was killed in San Francisco. You may remember that I launched a big national campaign, Kate's Law.
Yes, you did. You did a great job with that, Bill.
And Kate Steinle is walking with her father, and a guy comes up to her and shoots her dead. And the guy had been deported 5 times and come back 5 times and goes into court, and he's acquitted of murder and manslaughter. He gets convicted of a weapons crime. And the jury says, oh, we're acquitting him because he was mentally unbalanced. I mean, it was shocking. But in San Francisco, where the case took place, it isn't shocking. We don't want to put people in jail, in prison. We don't want to take them off the street because we believe it's not their fault. And boy, oh boy, in New York City, when you have 8.5 million people on top of one another, how dangerous is that?
The pulse of the people, Bill O'Reilly. Are we fighting a capitalism versus a socialism war? Or are we fighting a holy war?
Well, the holy war is part of it, and as I said, Mandani will get involved with that. It's just a when, not an if, because the communists, progressives, they don't want any religion, because if you have religion, you don't have full allegiance to the state, which is why the Soviet Union and China and Cuba all attacked religion. They don't want you participating in that. An interesting thing, I have a documentary on Thursday, Thursday evening, on July 2nd, I believe it is, on News Nation. And the documentary is about heroes and villains in a revolutionary war, but not the English. It's the American colonists. Who are the heroes really, and who are the villains really? And there were people who did not want to join this country because of slavery, because they knew eventually slavery was going to be abolished, and they did not want that. And so they didn't want any part of the new United States. And it's all driven by, in my opinion, by personal profit and personal stuff. But what disturbs me the most, if you go to Coney Island over the weekend and you're out there having a Nathan's and on the beach, and you get into conversations with younger people, 35 and down, they're not going to know any of this. You're going to look at them. You're going to say, "Yeah, Mandami is a communist," and what? They're not going to know any of it. And when you have a population that's ignorant / apathetic, anything could happen.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And that's why this is such a concern. One of the things, too, Bill, too, is that I was watching, like, over the weekend, even Mandani was saying, oh, yeah, I can see it in all over the country. Tomorrow there's a race in Colorado. There's also the guy, El Sayed in Michigan. I mean, this is not exclusive to New York.
No, look at Maine.
Yep.
I mean, you don't get a more traditional society than Maine. And you're going to cast a ballot for this Plantler guy? I don't think he's going to win. I saw the latest polling today, and Susan Collins probably beat him. But he's competitive. And, you know, it does not get more traditional than Maine. And it's because of people do not know what the deuce is happening. And there are a lot of people who have given up. They don't want to compete. They don't have a lot of money. Okay, I just don't want to be in this system. It's too hard. Give me the money. Give me the food. Give me the rent. Go ahead, give it to me. I'll take it. And those people are foreign born. And California is the best example of that. Okay, because they don't know what our system is. And when Biden let in 10 to 15 million foreign-born people, and California does not require any valid ID to vote, you got a totally different electorate. You have that in New York.
Yeah, we had it big time. We saw that in the results, big time.
Right. You got a lot of people casting ballots here that are not eligible to vote because the Progressive Party does not want to enforce that, which is why 0 Democratic senators support the SAVE Act. Zero. No one.
And on top of that, 10 Democratic states don't want to go to Washington to celebrate 250 years.
Yeah, because that's just like the Civil War stuff. That's just like the stuff like, they being the founding fathers, had a real problem with some of those states getting them to sign the U.S. Constitution. They did not want to sign it because of personal stuff like slavery. That was the big driver back then. And we're now looking at a country that's fractured. And I'm not surprised that 10 states aren't going to show up. All of them are run by loons. All of them are telling you ICE is kicking your door in and going to come in and shoot your 5-year-old. And some people believe it.
Yeah,
and
it's so sad. It is sad, Bill. It really is sad that we've come to this state. Bill, thank you. You keep sounding the alarm. We love having you and love having your voice of common sense, Bill. Thank you so much.
We fight side by side.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me in.
Thank you, Bill.
And the top news of the day, Rita?
It's the top news of the day. Here's Rita Cosby.
And there's a lot of news today. It was a busy day for the U.S. Supreme Court, John, which issued some key decisions. And one, mail-in ballots can be counted if they're received after the election happens and if they are postmarked by Election Day. And we're going to have Greg Jarrett, great Fox News legal analyst, talk about that in a few minutes. And also, President Trump says the U.S. and Iran will restart peace talks as both sides appear to step back from a wave of attacks over the weekend. Trump posted that Iran requested the talks, which will now take place in Qatar tomorrow. And we're going to be talking to General Jack Keane right after the break on that. Stay tuned to Busy News Day here on Katz and Cosby.
Sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, What the heck is going? We're talking about all domestic politics. Let's go international. Let's go to Iran. Let's go to Lebanon. With us today is General Jack Keane. Well, General, what the heck is going on? Give us the pulse of the situation.
Well, certainly what we saw happen is Iran certainly is challenging the Straits of Hormuz. They really don't want to give up control of it, and that's why they were attacking shipping going through the lanes. We responded with attacks of our own. Now we're going into negotiations with them in Qatar, Doha. My concern about that, we should be making absolutely no concessions to them whatsoever. Because in the MOU, the only thing that was truly agreed to in the MOU, everything was a promise for the future, except open up the Straits of Hormuz, and that was on Iran's part, and we remove our blockade. And we have removed our blockade, and Iran is still challenging the Straits of Hormuz. I don't know what we have to negotiate about. It seems to me the negotiation has already taken place, and we certainly shouldn't be making any further concessions to the Iranians over this. So our audience understands, though, John, the Straits of Hormuz is important to the Iranians as a nuclear weapon, and I'm not exaggerating. The reason is it gives them huge influence in the region. If they can threaten to shut it down any time something doesn't go right in terms of Iran and its objectives, a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, that's the leverage that they want to have. They want to have it as a deterrence factor. In other words, they use it to blackmail the Israelis, the Gulf states themselves, and actually the United States itself as well. That's what they want. They believe they've achieved a bit of this, because when they went to they shut down the Straits on 2 March after the war began on February 28th. We, a month later, almost, a little bit more than a month, on April the 8th, we went to a ceasefire. At that point, they believe they gained some leverage over the United States, because the principal reason for going to ceasefire was oil and gas prices. So we have to make certain that they understand these Straits are international waters. They're going to have absolutely no control over it whatsoever. What they've been doing right now is telling ships when to pass, and also to call a certain number to arrange for Iranian insurance to guarantee their passage. That's the nonsense that's been going on. So hopefully this comes to an end pretty quick.
Yeah, let's hope.
It's not, there's always going to be some terrorists among the Iranian guards. And this is a tough one. It's not an easy item. We're doing what we have to do, but General, it's not an easy item.
No, but we have a lot of leverage here, and we have to use it. And what leverage do we have? One, we can go back to a naval blockade itself. 2, we can forcibly open up the Straits and keep it open. And I think eventually, John, if Iranian mischief continues to be what it is, that'll likely be the thing that we will do. Open the Straits up forcibly and keep it open.
Yeah, and we have to just for leverage. We have to for prices, for gas, oil. Judge Weinberg.
General, good to talk to you again, sir. Seems to me that they have 2 aces in the hole. One is Hormuz and shutting it down. The second is they still have the forces of Hezbollah, which is a threat. They can't give up Hezbollah because that's their military option to cause chaos in the Middle East. They can't give up Hormuz. So we've been in a position, General, respectfully, that we've been negotiating against ourselves all along, whereas the military did great work with the Israelis and beat them militarily. And then, as you correctly point out, you have a ceasefire, and the only people who've gained by that ceasefire are the Iranians and the Hezbollah. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hezbollah is absolutely crucial to them, and I think it was a mistake that they became part of the Iran-U.S. deal. The Israelis wanted it de-linked because it's a separate country, a separate issue. It's obviously they're resourced by Iran, but they wanted to be able to stay in Lebanon and finish Hezbollah once and for all. After all, they're still dealing with what took place on October the 7th, with Hamas attacking them, sanctioned by Iran, October the 8th, Hezbollah attacking them. And the reality is, as of November 24, there's been a ceasefire supposedly in Lebanon, and that's been absolute nonsense because there's been thousands and thousands of rockets fired into northern Israel under the guise of that ceasefire. Then there was another ceasefire on April the 17th, and 2,000 rockets and drones were fired since that time, forcing the evacuation of all the villages and towns in northern Israel. There is absolutely no way that Israel can sustain anything like that. That begins to put them on the path that not having a nation, and they understand that this is an existential threat to them. And we need to support them 100%. As of right now, we are doing just that. But it shouldn't have been part of the U.S.-Iran deal. That, I think, was a mistake in doing that. But it is now, and we have to make certain that the Israelis stay in southern Lebanon. As long as the Hezbollah are active, the Israelis, if they want to be on the ground in southern Lebanon, then they should be. And they shouldn't negotiate themselves out of anything like that, and the United States shouldn't certainly force them to pull out of Lebanon. They should only pull out of Lebanon when Hezbollah is finished, and we should be supporting them 100%.
I agree on that 100%.
General, the problem is there was a good deal, to the best extent you can have a deal, negotiated by Secretary of State Rubio, which was to get Hezbollah marginalized, isolated, and removed by the Lebanese government and by the Israelis, and give the people back their country, which is occupied by Hezbollah. Now you have the Speaker of the Parliament in Lebanon saying that's never going to happen. So the fact of the matter is you can have all these wonderful agreements, but when the terrorists don't cooperate and they stay adamant and they'll fight to the last person that they kill, what are you going to do about that? You have to take them out.
Let Israel do their job. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I have a question, Jack. I'm curious on this. How intact is the IRGC? Because to me, they're obviously the root of all this. How intact are they militarily?
Well, we have killed a lot of them, and we've damaged the organizations, and certainly the financial organizations to sustain them. They're a complex organization. They're a military organization. They also operate as an intelligence service. They also own a lot of the industrial military capability that exists in the country is under the IRGC control. It also helps to make the IRGC leaders independently wealthy. But the reality is they have been hurt, but they're very much in charge. The attacking that's going on in the Straits of Hormuz, and certainly the support for Hezbollah in Lebanon, that is all coming from the IRGC. I know people want to make the claim that we're dealing with a different regime. It is true we're dealing with different people, but the regime is the same. And anybody that suggests it is not the same doesn't understand what is happening. And just look at the facts of it. Since we signed the MOU, the IRGC has violated the ceasefire. They've been conducting attacks in the Strait of Hormuz. Hezbollah has violated the ceasefire. They've been conducting attacks into Israel. This is the IRGC who is driving Iran's objectives here. The diplomats talk nice, promise things, and never deliver. And that's the path we're on in dealing with this. I know people are optimistic about two things. One, that this regime may indeed change, and the indications are they have. I don't believe that for a minute. They may talk nice, they may be urbane and sophisticated with us, they may appear reasonable, but at the end of the day, for 47 years, this is who they've been.
Once a terrorist, always a terrorist, Trump, right?
Yes. Every president prior to Trump, from Carter all the way to Trump, has every single one of them. The evidence is there. They reached out to Iran and tried to be reasonable and work things with them. And every single one of them got the same answer.
Yes.
And eventually, a complete pushback from the Iranians, no change whatsoever. That is what is going to happen here.
And the
That's
Iranians are
reality
just
of what
trying
we're
to buy
dealing with.
time.
Yep. 100%. Well, retired four-star general, also chairman of the Institute of Study of War, and also Fox News senior strategic analyst Jack Keane. Thank you. We love you. We
Jack.
appreciate
Thank
you
you,
so
General.
much.
Yeah, always great talking to you and your audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you guys, big decisions coming from the Supreme Court today. Who better than Fox News legal analyst and big best-selling author Greg Jarrett? Greg, what did you make of this big decision on mail-in ballots? President Trump said this is a big loss.
Well, it's not about ideology. It was a specific reading of existing federal law. And the court said that the federal statute specifies when voters must vote, but says nothing at all about when mail-in ballots must be received. So, it's up to Congress to pass such a law if it wants ballots to be received by Election Day. And until then, states have the power to manage ballot counting, which is what Mississippi did in this particular case. This is consistent with the Constitution. The Elections Clause in the Constitution grants Congress the power to regulate federal elections, but it gives states broad authority to administer the times, places, and manner. And that, of course, includes, the counting of ballots. I think this was sort of a way for the Supreme Court to say to the people across the street in Congress, if you want to do something about this morass that occurs in places like California, pass the Save America Act, which has a provision in it to resolve this issue.
Well, and that's the big issue. We talk about this on the show, is these mail-in ballots. And that's a big thing that President Trump has said. He doesn't think mail-in ballots should be just kind of gratuitously sent to people.
California.
Right. California's a great example,
They just
Judge.
mail them out. 20 million ballots just mailed out, unsolicited.
Whether you're sick, whether you're elderly, it doesn't matter. They just kind of send it out. How are you going to feel like faith in the process, Greg?
Yeah, Justice Alito in the dissent today pointed out, this process, and he was referring to California, only fuels distrust in the integrity of elections. I lived for 30 years in California. My friends tell me that, they'll get 20 mail-in ballots sent to them at their home for people who don't live there anymore and haven't for 20 years. And, do those ballots get filled out wrongfully and counted improperly? You've got to know that it does happen. And, again, it just fuels distrust.
Yeah, it totally fuels distrust. Judge Weinberg.
Good to talk to you, Greg. There's a case going on now in the lower federal courts. It has to deal with the power of the states to remove people from the rolls, the registration rolls. And that's running into opposition again from the Democrats. What could be the objection of having clean election rolls that only people who are citizens and are entitled to vote are on those rolls, especially when you're doing unsolicited mail-outs to people who haven't requested ballots?
You object if you want to cheat.
Right.
I mean, that's the simple answer. And, I think we've seen this time and again. The whole Democrat mantra has been, let's open the borders, let's bring in millions of people who are here illegally, and, we hope two things. One, that they'll vote illegally, and number two, if they become legal citizens, they're going to vote for us because we let them in. So it's all about power for Democrats, not about election integrity.
Did you see also, obviously last week was the temporary protective status, and that was a big win for the Trump administration that they have the authority. That's on the Syrian and Haitians. Did you see, it was that Seth Moulton, the senator, came out. I couldn't believe this. And he said...
The congressman running for the Senate.
Congressman running for Senate, forgive me. And he came out from Massachusetts, right? And he came out and said, well, maybe this is a good reason why we got to pack the court. In other words, if you're not happy with the Supreme Court decision, let's change the Supreme Court.
And he's supposed to be a responsible Democrat, by the way. So he tells us.
Yeah, well, every time he opens his mouth, he tends to prove he's a dope. There were two decisions on immigration, and both, I think, are victory for voters who want federal laws to be enforced. And I think it was also a reprimand, a rebuke to these activist judges who brazenly usurp presidential power. You mentioned the TPS law. It specifically states that judges have no authority to question or countermand the decision to end temporary status. And yet, judges have been ignoring that and imposing their own biased judges. And in their ruling last week, the Supreme Court said, hey, knock it off. You have no business weighing in on this. What's so striking is that the court had to explain to those same judges that the law means what it says. Temporary does not mean permanent. In the asylum case, being in the U.S. does not mean being near the U.S. Now, that should be obvious to anyone with a brain, but the problem is, there are too many federal judges who are driven by their own political bias and arrogance. They think they're above Congress and above the president, and the court was trying to tell them, no, you're not. But I doubt they feel humbled.
Yeah, I doubt they feel humbled, too. Well, Greg Jarrett, thank you so much. It's always so great to have you on, Greg, and get your common sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much. And we're going to take a break, John.
Sure, let's take a break, and we're going to come back with Joe Concha, and he's always fun to talk to.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, we are back.
We are. And who better? Well, who better on a Monday, right, at this time than Joe Concha?
Mondays and Fridays?
Mondays and Fridays, every day. We love Joe Concha. And you can listen to him, by the way, every night, 9 to 10 p.m. on 77 WABC.
Yeah.
And Joe, oh my goodness, we've been talking about, first of all, let's get into the fact that, did you hear this, that there were 10 states that are not participating in this, the Great American Fair taking place there in D.C.? I mean, what is wrong with these people? Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, Washington State, Maine, Oregon, Illinois, North Carolina, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Connecticut.
My God. Not surprising at all, Rita, because what we have now is, well, put it this way, we have an NBC News poll out where 12% of Kamala Harris voters say they are proud of this country.
Oh, my God.
1 in 10, right? So, yeah, not surprising at all, but when you hate the country, then, I don't know, leave? Is that, like, the option? Because I would absolutely say that absolutely is the option at this point.
How sad that it's become so political that they can't even do a fair celebrating our country. It's horrible.
Yeah, and look, during the Obama administration, 90% of Republicans, GOP, whatever you want to call it, they supported this country. They said, we're proud to be in this country. So even it doesn't matter who the president is or who's in power, in the end, just be proud of the country, considering like all the opportunities that we have, everything that's awesome about this country, Amazon, Apple, the Constitution, Sydney Sweeney, like all those things.
You always throw in Sydney Sweeney. All right.
Well, yeah, I mean, great movie. The Housemaid, great movie.
Judge Weinberg.
Joe, I want to get your comments on this phenomenon that's going on. You had an attack by these insurrectionists against an ICE facility with an armament. They shot at, one of them was shot in the neck. One of the ICE officials was shot in the neck. They were given maximum jail terms in Texas federal court. Right. And you have the apologist media saying, why are you doing this to these poor people? They're demonstrating in the First Amendment rights. This is suppression of free speech. I mean, what's wrong with these people? They are backing insurrection. They are violating civility. These people are the new Jacobins. They believe in political violence, and it's acceptable. What are your thoughts?
Oh, Judge, I mean, you're so right about that. As far as, again, you shoot somebody, and then, therefore, what? The only victim is the person who has been shot, right? And in the end, we see that with Darylisa Chevrolet, who's going to be a congresswoman from New York, who literally said, Judge, that if you murder somebody, you shouldn't go to prison. But I mean, can anybody square this? But that's where the Democratic Party is going at this point.
We should have mental health hearings for these people and have them committed.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about the destruction of civilization. That's exactly what they're offering.
No, I'm with you on that. And again, I don't think that on a national level, let's say New York City primaries, 15% of people vote. Okay, fine. But nationally, I can't see socialists / communists, the people that support, murderers not going to prison. That's a horrible brand for the Democratic Party at this point.
It is. But you know what's so scary, Joe? And I was telling John and the judge before this, that earlier when I was watching this weekend, and I was watching Bernie Sanders, and he was at this rally in Texas, a Democratic rally, but in Texas, and he said, we're sort of the new party. We're the new this. And same thing, you see the same messaging from Zora Mandani and others. They seem to think it equates well beyond New York, and then he got Homaway in New Jersey. But they seem to think this is the whole new Democrat. This is the new Democratic Party in their mind. They're clearly going for a fight.
Yeah, and I heard Rita actually on ABC News over the weekend, Jonathan Karl basically saying that, you know what, why can't you run for president? I mean, aren't you like the best candidate that could be out there right now for Democrats? And oh boy, can you imagine this? Zora Mandani running for president. Now he can't based on, the Constitution.
Right, he was born in Uganda, yep.
Yeah, but what's a little thing like the Constitution to stop him?
Exactly. They want him to run, right? They want AOC, Mamdani as the ticket. And again, if you do that, you will lose big time, because in places like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada, that does not fly. That's the way it's going to go.
And meantime, their message is all anti-Trump. Did you see this, by the way, over the weekend? Everyone's talking about this. Joe Biden was at an event, and he took a couple swipes at President Trump about the reflection pond. I mean, this is so crazy. It's like, and then he couldn't get off the stage. He didn't know where he was going again.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, again, you're in politics for 50 years. You don't know how to get off a stage. And then, oh, by the way, he said that the Biden economy was infinitely better than the Trump economy. And it's like, whoa, dude, your inflation was above 9%. Trump is around 3%. It's delusional at this point. I know every Democrat out there says, Joe Biden, get off the stage. Dr. Joe Biden, get off the stage. Hunter Biden, go away. You're a reminder of the failure of this party, yet they keep coming back. It's like Al Pacino on Godfather 3. Every time I try to get out, they pull me back in, and that's fine.
That was a perfect ending.
Except the Bidens are trying to pull themselves back in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that way.
But anytime you can do a Godfather reference,
Absolutely.
it's good, right?
I'm with that.
All right.
Thank you.
And Joe, I know you'll be surprised, but what do we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
Way.
God bless America.
Thanks for listening to Cats and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. You can hear Cats and Cosby weekdays at 5. It's the 5 o'clock show on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?